Welcome class to your Chapter 7 lecture video, Manage a Web Server and Files. We're going to cover the objectives, just about 2 or 3 of them. We're going to perform website maintenance. We're going to talk about synchronization when it talks about publishing a website and transferring files, because you've been publishing and transferring files throughout this entire semester, but we'll dig more into the synchronization side of it. We're going to skip the check files out and in, as well as these last 2, and we'll talk about import and export a site definition. So I'm going to begin with you on page 5. Actually page 6 of your textbook under check for broken links. So again, we're working with Striped Umbrella, and we're going to be working with the site menu to start us off. So in this first section it talks about broken links, but the first part talks about the site cache. Now in the very beginning of the semester I put an announcement out there in the course shell that stated that if your files were not updating on the server when you viewed them through a web browser, one of the options was to update the site cache that comes with Dreamweaver. Now the other option was to actually physically delete the files off the server and then do a fresh upload of that particular file or files to the server. So this first option is under Advanced, and we come to Recreate Site Cache. So just like web browsers and other programs, they have a temporary memory that they use, and so sometimes Dreamweaver uses that temporary file to upload to the server and not your updated file. So this is one way that you can go about it. Now I would say that it works about 75 to 80% of the time. So that's why in the announcements I gave you that option of actually deleting the files off the server as well. So I'll show you that here. So here are my files. So if index was not updating, I could right click on it, click on edit, and then click on delete. Now you just need to be very careful that you're deleting on this side. This is the remote server side and not on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and click on yes. Okay, so now index is completely removed from there, and now I could do a fresh upload of my changes. And now I have forced my new file to be there because it wasn't there because I deleted it. So that's ways that you can go around that. Check for orphan files as well as broken links. So I'll collapse this back down. We go through the site menu and we come to site options, and we're going to look at check links site-wide. So broken links, so if you had any broken links here, you could double click it and go ahead and figure out why that particular link was broken. You can also check for orphan files. Now you probably should only see this first one simply because in the previous chapter we didn't go through the step of creating your own fluid grid layout. So you'll probably only see this first one. Now when you're working with Coffee Shop, this is a way that you can clean up your files. So at the very end, go ahead and do this process and clean up your files. And then we have external links. So if any external link that I needed to actually update, maybe because the URL was incorrect, I could use this link checker panel to go about doing that. Another great tool coming from the site menu is reports. And on reports, you just want to make sure that from current document, report on, you want to change that to entire current local site. And then always run the report missing alt text and untitled documents. And then click on Run. And in your site reports box that comes back, you should see if anything, maybe you're missing some alternate text on an image, or maybe you forgot to title a page. You can just double click it, take you right to there, you make the change, and you can go ahead and run the report again. From there we talk about validation, and validation is important definitely for web developers. With a file open, so you have to have a file open and you can only do one file at a time. That's the drawback, where with reports we could do an entire site. With validation we have to do one file at a time. So we click on validate and we come to current document W3C. So this is going to take us to the website w3.org, which sets the standards for web developers and how they should follow and code. And then we'll see if we have any errors that come back. So we want to agree to the terms and conditions by clicking OK. And I don't want you to be too alarmed if you get 2 or 3 items that come back. This one right here, we could This one is really not a warning or an error. This one here, the document appears to be written in English. Consider adding language EN, and you would add that to the body tag. So if I were to put it right in here, language, and then EN. So it's something you can fix. This one right here is the one that I do want you to fix. So it says no P element in scope at a PN tag seen. That happens to do with these P tags that are wrapped around our navigation. I just say delete them. They really have no purpose. I know in the book they told you to put them there, so don't be curious as to why they were there. And you can take out those blank spaces. Now if I come back and I run the current document again, and agree, let's see here, did it not fix that English thing? Language EN. Not sure why that's not disappearing. Oh, it's on line 5. I'm supposed to add that to the HTML tag, I bet. Right here. So line 5, I'd put it in here. And that's just a standard, it's just a standard thing, trying to make your document more of a standard practice. So make sure you fix the P tag error. This one is an optional one that you can fix. The next one on page 9 talks about validating your CSS. So if you're having any issues with your CSS file, especially with Coffee Shop, this is a good place to go. So it is the W3C CSS validation service. They give you the URL in number 1 on page 9, and you can use by file upload. You can even do direct input where you would actually copy and paste a chunk of CSS code. We're going to do file upload. I'm going to use SU styles, and then I'm going to click on check. Actually, before I go that, I'm going to go to more options, make sure I'm at CSS level 3, and then click on check. So you should make sure that you have no errors found. Now a few of you have had some issues with the media queries, and you've noticed it in your banner display that you have the smaller banner that is for the global and not, say, for the tablet or the desktop. This is a service that you could run through and you could see maybe where your errors are coming from. Page 10, 11, 12, and 13 have to do with design notes. Design notes is a practice that I've been really using a lot lately, just because I don't always remember what my thought was at that particular time. So it's kind of like a post-it note that you could put inside of Dreamweaver. We need to set up and enable design notes within each site so that we can actually use them. So with Stripe and Umbrella, I'm going to manage my sites and edit, and in advanced settings I'm going to click on design notes. I'm going to make sure that this one is checked. If I wanted to share my notes with other team members, I could click on this checkbox. The next thing that I need to jump to is File, View Columns, and you need to make sure that your notes says Show. If it doesn't say Show, you can click on it, you can double click it, or you can click on the pencil, and then you just make sure that that Show is checked. That will allow you to see an actual icon in your Files panel that when you have a design note. So let's go ahead and add a design note to Activities. So File, Design Notes, or you can right click and select in the Design Notes from that menu as well. I'm going to insert the date. So if you see the 19, insert the date. And then I'm going to type in add new parasailing video. Now if I click on the checkbox show when file is opened, this will automatically force this design note to be opened and presented in front of me so that I know that I need to do this particular step. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And with that File View Columns, now I see my little icon. If I need to edit it, I can just simply double click it and add to it. And the add to it text is on page 12 and number 2. Ask Sue Guerin to send the file. Click OK. Now to actually see the actual design note, because you can see over here, you don't actually see any physical file associated with it. You see the icon, But to actually see it, you right click on your file and you go all the way down to the bottom and you click on Explore. And then you'll see a Notes folder, and maybe you've noticed this as you've gone through your sites and you've seen this. Anytime you synchronize a file or even upload files, this Notes is going to be created. So I'm going to click on that, and I can see that there's some syncing in there. I'm going to click on activities.html because that's the note I created, and it's MNO. And I'm going to open that in my Adobe Brackets program. And you probably don't have that, but it's a free download. And it's an XML file, and you can see that some of the text that I typed into that design note are actually there. If I needed to delete that particular note, this is the way I go about doing it. I can delete the entire notes folder as well. Lesson 2, publish a website and transfer files. Again, we have been doing this process all along. Make sure that when you upload that you're going to that expand so that you can actually see both views, and you can do a connect. And again, delete if your changes are not showing up over here, and then do a fresh upload. So pages 17, 18, 19, and 20 go through what we've been doing throughout this semester. Synchronize files is on page 21. Now they tell you to actually open up each web page within the website to see which favicon is not showing. So I'm going to go ahead and actually open this up in real-time preview, and I'm going to use Chrome. So you can see up here that I'm not seeing my favicon, and if I go to Home, About Us, Sand Crab Cafe. Now just as a reminder from that particular chapter when we dealt with favicons, you couldn't use the live app preview to see your favicon. You actually had to go Control-O and open that file, or through File Explorer. If I come to desktop and where my files are at, I can right click and then I can say Open With, and open up with Firefox, for example. Then I have an actual file path, and then I can actually see my favicons. So on my home page I'm not seeing it. I see it on About Us, but I don't see it on Sand Crab Cafe. I see it on CSpawn, I see it on Activities. So I know that this file, Cafe, and Index need to have that added. And the reason we're going through that is simply to show you synchronization. So on my Activities page, I'm going to copy my line 10, which is my favicon code, and I'm going to paste it right before the title tag because that's where it was in Activities. And I'm also going to open up Cafe and do the same thing. And then I'm going to do a File, Save All. And then we're going to talk about synchronization. So the synchronization button is the fourth one in on your Files panel. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And we want to synchronize the entire website. And we're going to click on Put Newer Files to Remote. Now we can go ahead and click on Preview to see what is coming up. So I have these changes. So it gives you an idea of what you're actually going to be uploading before you actually upload it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And so those particular 3 files had the changes in them that needed to be pushed to the server. So that's synchronization. And some of you have been using that. Check files out and in. This is something that you would use in a teamwork environment, and it just becomes more of a confusion for students in our environment simply because we're not working inside of teams. So that's why I've chosen to skip lesson 3. Lesson 4 is cloaking files. Cloaking files simply means we want to exclude some files from certain operations. So we can cloak and uncloak. So on page 30 we have to set up the ability to cloak for that particular website, just like we did with design notes. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Advanced Settings, and then I'm going to click on Cloaking. Now you need to have this checked in order to be able to cloak or exclude specified folders and files from all site operations. We're going to cloak a particular folder, and then we're going to come back and cloak particular files that end with a certain file extension. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cloak the assets folder. So We right click on it, we click on cloaking, and then we click cloak. You'll get the red slash, and that simply means that when I go ahead and try to upload Striped Umbrella, these are going to be excluded from that actual upload. So if you have particular file types such as PSD, like a Photoshop file, which can be really large in file size, that might be a file type that you would actually exclude. Some PNG files can get large in file size, but especially PSD files. Or maybe there's certain video files that you don't want. You want them in your local view, but they don't necessarily need to be on the server to actually function. Now let's first uncloak this by just coming back to cloaking and then clicking uncloak all. Now we'll come back into our site definition and go to servers, or not servers, sorry, advanced settings, then to cloaking. And here is if we wanted to cloak a particular file type. So they suggest using GIF. Again, PSD might be more applicable. Go ahead and click save. It says the cache will be recreated. And now we can see that those 3 GIF files. Now to uncloak those, you can simply just right click, go to cloaking, and uncloak all. Uncloak all will cause all of your cloaked items for the site to be uncloaked. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes. So if I go back into my site definition and go to site advanced settings and go to cloaking, that's unchecked. Okay? You could go back and uncheck it too and remove that particular file extension as well. Lesson 5 talks about exporting a site definition. On-campus students do this at the very beginning of the semester. They export site definitions. Every time they make a change to a site definition, they export again. Every day they walk into a lab, a computer classroom on campus, they have to import their site definition because our files or our computers are re-imaged every night to scratch and kind of reset from where they were when they were created. So as an online student, and you probably have Dreamweaver installed on your computer, you never have to do this. But let's just say you wanted to be able to work on your Dreamweaver site on someone else's computer that also has Dreamweaver. It's as very simple as doing this. You go to Site, and then you go to Manage Sites. And let's just say I wanted to use Striped Umbrella. I click on the 4th icon. It says Export. I want to back up my settings, and that is all your login information to the server, and I click on OK. Now I can export that site definition to wherever I want it to store. So I'm going to just go ahead and throw it on my desktop. Maybe I put it in my Striped Umbrella folder, and I click on Save. Notice that the file extension is .ste. I click on Save. Okay, and if I want to double check, I can go into Striped Umbrella, and there it is, Striped Umbrella STE. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove that site from my sites that I have. So no longer Striped Umbrella is there. And so this is what the students come in on campus. Their sites are gone because as soon as the computer is restarted, everything is erased. So then they have to go through import, and then they navigate to that site definition file, and they import it, and it's back in there just like you have it always there. Okay, so that's one way you can export and then import. So you could share it across multiple computers. Lesson 6 and Lesson 7 talk about evaluating web content for legal use. If you're going to take any information from someone else's website, you need either to give them attribution to that, so that you need to give them credit for that content that you took, or you need to get permission from them to use that content on your website as your own content. So make sure that you're not doing any copyright violations. When it comes to coffee shop, I'm going to be able to tell just by reading through your content if that is content that's come from another coffee shop website. It's a pretty narrow market, so I can really tell. So make sure you're writing your own content. You can use Striped Umbrella, TripSmart, and Blooms as kind of template examples, to change wording. I don't have a problem with that. But make it, try to make it as much as your own as you can. When it comes to images, you need to make sure you're using either Pixabay or Flickr. I'm more of a fan of Pixabay than I am of Flickr. So in your syllabus, if you scroll down to your final project, there is Pixabay. So with Pixabay, I don't care what image you bring in through here. So if I wanted to do coffee cup, just make sure again the sponsors images you're going to have to pay for. So you want to be inside here and grab these images. And when you grab an image, let's just say this one, you want to make sure it says CCO public domain, and you want to go to then to free download, and you want to know, what am I going to use this image for? Is this image just going to be used as an image on a page? Then I'm probably going to go for the 640 by 426. Is this image going to be used, that has to be fairly wide? Then I'm going to go to the 1280 by 853. So these two are probably your best options. Okay, and again, it really depends on the purpose of that particular image. Now, if I'm using it for a background image, this is probably sufficient. This is a little big because we really don't get to that bigger resolution. Be careful with background images, and if you need any help with that, let me know. Presenting a website to a client is lesson 7. Give these couple pages here a good read. So when you create your coffee shop website, I want you to actually imagine showing it to me, stepping through the pages and telling me the purpose of each page. Every page needs a purpose as to why it should be in a website. And so kind of imagine you sitting next to someone trying to sell that website to them. And then again, read through pages 40 and 41. So when we come to Blooms, come to our actual assignments. So on Blooms and Bulbs, it says section, publish a website and transfer files, only steps 4 and 5. That's the synchronization side of things. And then do not complete check files out and in. And TripSmart, you don't want to complete steps 15 through 18. And then when it comes to, and those are the check file in and out. And the same thing with Coffee Shop. Now Coffee Shop, you can use the checklist that's on page 47 to kind of guide you as to where you should be. Remember, you're required to have 6 pages created by the end of the semester. So use this checklist to help you guidance to see where you're at. Are you satisfied with the content and appearance of every page that you have created thus far? If there's pages that you need help with, laying things out, let me know. Are all paths for all links and images correct? Are all of them showing up? And are you testing through this? You need to make sure that you're going to your individual directory. Okay, so you would have your name here at the end, and you're logging in to make sure that everything is showing up the way it needs to be. Does each page have a title? So run those reports. Does the style sheet pass CSS3 validation? Run that through the validator, cs_styles.css. Number 5, again, run reports. Have you eliminated any orphan files? Have you deleted unnecessary files? Have you viewed all pages using at least 2 different browsers and 3 different screen sizes? So are you doing your testing? Are you using Firefox and Internet Explorer and Chrome? Are you using these different, are you looking at it inside of a smartphone, through a tablet, and through a desktop to make sure that we are seeing what we need to be seeing at those different screen resolutions. So you'll be able to see if your banners are working with your coffee shop website if you do those screen resolutions. Does the home page have keywords and a description? Okay, sometimes those get lost when we've done some recreation of pages. Is all text based on a CSS style? So are you styling your text? Okay, I'm not asking you to style everything, but if it's a heading, you want to give it some sort of a style. Use your colors. So if you have any questions with regards to what's expected for Chapter 7, it is a 1-week chapter. And then we'll go into chapters 8 and 9, and so we got about 4 weeks left. And again, any questions, concerns, please let me know. Thank you.